Good evening. Thank you for joining us for tonight's Inspiration webinar. Inspiration Software is the embroidery software line of G7 Solutions and designs machine embroidery. Our Inspiration Software line includes My Block Pacer, My Quilt Embellisher, Perfect Embroidery Pro, and Perfect Stitch Viewer, and the new Word Art and Stitches and the new My Quilt Planner. Tonight's webinar is Gift Giving Ideas. We have a wonderful team assisting us tonight. Inspiration Tech Support Team, Nancy R., Chris L., Dory N., and I would like to present you to our giver of gorgeous gifts, Katherine Artines, who will wrap us up in ideas. Again, thank you for joining us and enjoy the webinar.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we are just going to play in our software to see how much fun it can be to create easy projects. And tonight, let's make it all about the magic of the season and the magic of Perfect Embroidery Pro. I promised you fast and easy last-minute gift ideas with a bit of pretty presentation thrown in, and that's what we have tonight. We'll begin with an easy one. As we take a look at our first project, you see I've called this a coin pod. If you like to call it a coin purse, you certainly can do that. But you see that they're all made out of felt, and we have a couple of different shapes going on. Let's come right into our software. In Perfect Embroidery Pro, I have a clean screen up, and we're going to begin with File, Import Artwork. And as we come in here, I'm going to use the drop-down arrow to review for you the path that you will follow. You'll start at the hard drive, C:, you'll find your dime folder and double-click that. You'll see images and double-click images, and then you'll see bitmaps and double-click that. And this is the screen you'll be brought to. There are many, many, many vector files that come with Perfect Embroidery Pro. They are in alphabetical order. I am looking for Piggy. So we'll scroll down until we see the P's. And right here we have Piggy. We take a look over in the right corner and we see a picture of that particular vector. I'll go ahead and open it. We're brought to the screen. The first thing that I'd like to do is to size it. We'll come into our Properties, Transform, and I'm going to make the width be a 5.5. And this way, once it's rotated, it will fit in my 5x7 hoop. And we'll back out just a little bit so Miss Piggy here is not quite in our face. And as we see this artwork, it is made to be digitized, but all we really need is the shape of the pig. We'll come over here to our sequence view, and I'm going to select everything except that first color. So I can click on my second color, hold down my Shift key, and click on the last color. All of those are selected. I'll hit my Delete on the keyboard. I'm left with the pig outline. Come on over here into your Properties, remove the check mark from your fill, and Apply, and we have the outline of the pig. Let's do a right-click, Convert to Run. I'm going to turn on my 3D so you can see our stitches, and that starts us with the outline of our pig. At this point, we're going to add a slot that will be for our coins. Come on up here to your artwork tool. Let's choose rectangle, and I will click and drag a rectangle, select it. I am going to change the color by right-clicking on my second color there. I'll do a right-click, Convert to Run, and then I'll come over here and check the size. That slot to be a 2.25 in width, and apply that, and that looks like a good size. I already have it set to my run stitch, and the other thing I'd like to do here, since it's a little bit decorative, I'm going to change that to our bean stitch and apply. At this point, you can add whatever text you'd like or decorative stitching that will be on the body of the pig. I'm going to add a $sign. So I'll choose our text tool, click in the middle, come over here and put my $sign in. I'll click on my font window so I can go in and see all of them. Having played with this, I know that I want the Times font. I'll double click on that, and my $ comes in on screen, and I picked Times because that gave me a very recognizable $. It wasn't too modern. I will change the color. Right click on that third color. And the very last thing that we want to do is click on our original pig, do a copy, and then a paste. I'm going to change the color, and this will be our last stitching for our pig. I'm going to come over here and make that a bean stitch so it's a little bit more decorative. And that is it. Fast and easy is what we have this evening. Let's take a look at how you would actually stitch this out. We'll come into our slides. You are going to be hooping felt. Again, in keeping with my fast and easy theme for this evening, when you hoop felt, you do not have to use any stabilizer, especially with the kinds of designs that we are using that we're not full-blown complex fill and so forth. So hooping our piece of felt, and when we talk about the felt, use a nice weight of felt. It doesn't have to be 100% wool felt, but don't buy the see-through felt either. Sometimes in the craft stores, when you can buy those rectangles of felt, you hold them up to the light and you can see right through them. You don't really want that type, but you want like a medium weight felt. Having stitched out our first outline of our pig, we then are going to allow all of the decorative stitching that we had in the center of our pig, in this case our coin slot, and also our $. And once all the decorative is stitched out, you then are going to float a second piece of felt under the hoop. I have it sticking out a little bit so you can see that it's there. You would push that all the way under your hoop, making sure it was flat and that it completely covered our first outline of our pig. And then finally we would stitch the bean stitch of the pig, and we would then anchor our top felt to our bottom felt. You would remove it from your hoop and trim around the edges. You'll notice that anytime I use a bean stitch with this raw edge, I leave at least a 1/4 inch away from my stitching. I don't want to cut too closely to that as we do in an applique, because I actually want the stitching to be noticeable, and if you cut too close it doesn't stand out. If you give it about a 1/4 inch, it stands out nicer. In this case, you'll see I have a large, a medium, and a small pig. To be honest with you, this little guy was the first one I did. I was trying to put our pig in a 4x4 hoop, and I sized it about 3.5 inches, which turned out to be very small, and I barely was able to put a 1/4 in that slot. So I needed to bump up our size. You can do a medium pig, which might be about 4 inches, or maybe 4.5, and then our larger pig was 5.5. You'll notice too that the slot is large enough so that you can put a gift card in there if you choose, or you can tuck in some cash. Our second one we're going to do is this t-shirt. Let's come back into the software. We'll come into a clean screen. You may remember that there are a number of shapes built into Perfect Embroidery Pro. If we click on the drop-down arrow for our text designs, we find applique shapes and motif shapes. We're going to come down and click on applique shapes. There are many, many shapes here that would work very well for our little coin purse. I'm going to scroll all the way down. We have 2 options for t-shirts, but I like the one with the sleeve sort of up in the air. Remember, it is an applique, so the first thing we want to do is to right-click, convert to, set that to a run. That's our basic stitch out. We need the coin slot. Well, we already have our pig still up here, so let's borrow it. We come back into our pig, we copy it, we then go into our other design screen and we paste, and that size is good, but let's go ahead and size our t-shirt. We'll make our t-shirt 4.5 is what we want for this particular project, and zoom in a little bit so we can see it. I'll take my coin slot and move that up. And at this point, we could add any text to this t-shirt, whatever you thought was appropriate for your recipient of this gift. I'll go ahead and click on my text tool, come over here in my white box where I type my phrases, and we can type in anything that we think is cute or that we would like to put in. I'm going to go into my fonts, come all the way to the top, and I'm going to use a plain one for this, just the Arial font, and I will right-click on a different color so it's different than my blue. I'll select it, drag it over, and then this is a little large, so I'll size it down a bit, and I can position it where I want it to be. And then the last thing that I need to do is to select our t-shirt again, the original shape. We're going to do a copy, paste. Notice that it pastes right under the first one. I'm going to change the color of it, and I also am going to make it a bean stitch, but the thing that I need to do is to put this particular shirt in the last position stitching out, so I'll do the move to front, and we see that that is in that position. So here we have our second coin purse. Again, fast and easy, and you have many shapes to choose from. It would be the same steps. You would hoop your felt, you would stitch out your first shape, the coin slot, the text, you would float your other piece of felt underneath your hoop, and then stitch out your bean stitch of the shirt, remove it, trim it, and then open up the coin slot. We'll take a look at that picture again, and we'll see that the next one we're going to play with is this coffee cup. We'll come back into the software. This particular design, we'll start with a clean screen. This particular design comes from those designs that are built into your software. We're going to do a file open, and we'll do a drop down, and we need to go find the dime folder. Here it is. We'll do a double click. We're going to go under designs with a double click, and here you have your Perfect Embroidery Pro free designs, and I'll double click that to open it. Here are the list of our designs. We are looking for the coffee cup. It's not too far down the list. I'll go ahead and double click that to bring it to screen. Now, this is a pre-digitized design that you have that looks wonderful when it's stitched out as is, but we are interested in the shape. So what we're going to do is come over to the sequence view. You see that you have these eyeballs right here. That means that that particular item of the design is showing. What I'm going to do is come down to the brown right here, which is the outline of the coffee cup. Let's click on the eyeball, and we will hide that brown. Then we come up and click on all items so it selects everything else, and I'm going to hit the delete on my keyboard. It looks like we got rid of everything, but we didn't. Come on back over here to the brown, click on the eyeball, and the brown, all of the outline is still there. Now I do need to come up and group this, because if I expand it, you see all of those little pieces and parts to this particular part of the design. So I'll select all of the brown, come up and click on group, and now I'm going to do a right click, create outline. The distance I want is 0. I'll go ahead and do an OK. I'm going to change the color. Click and drag that out of the way so that you can see what we have. We have a very nice outline of the coffee cup, and remember, we really only need the outline with these coin purses. What it is missing, though, is a little character. For example, the inside of this handle. So let's come up here and get our artwork tool with the pen, and we will trace this handle. So I click, I'm going to hold down, click again and hold down my control key, which will give me some curves to this handle, and I'll come down and click on the last one, a right click to end it. And then I'm also going to get a little bit of character with this rim, so I will click on that line, giving myself a little bit of a rim for our cup, and right click to end it. I'll come now and click on the brown. I no longer need that, so I'll do a delete. This is done in white, so let me change that color so you can see it. We'll change this just a little bit with our shape tool, and I'll make all of those smooth. And then I also want to come down here and close that line. If I wanted to make those smooth as well, I simply right-click and choose Smooth. I'll select both of those and position them where I want them. Okay, somewhere up in there for my rim, and then my handle will come down in here, and I'm going to take both of those, and actually I'm going to select all of them. Let's come up here to our size, and for our coffee cup I'm going to make it 5 inches high, so I'll just size everything at one time, and then let's bring this to center origin, and we have it zoomed properly. And now remember, this is all artwork, so let's do a right click, convert to run. Because this color and the handle are decorative, I'm going to come over here and make that a bean and apply. And at this point we still need a coin slot. Since I have both of these other designs open, I would come over here, once again, copy my coin slot, come into the coffee and paste it, position that where I'd like it to be, and then if I'd like to add any text or initials, I can do so at this point. I have a real good friend who's a coffee nut, so I'm going to use her initials on my coffee cup, and I need to put in the letter L over here and come into my fonts. I know that I like the formal monogram. It's kind of a fun one. I am going to change that color though. So we'll add a new color, and I'll just make that pink. I will select it, drag it down, and maybe size it just a little bit. The fun thing about my friend's initials is her first and last name begin with the same initial, so I'll do a copy paste and drag that second one down. I always think her initials look fun, and then to cap that, I'll do a remove overlap where I have the top over the bottom. And at this point, here's my coffee cup, but I do need to check the, we need to do one more thing. Let's select our outline for our coffee cup, do a copy, paste. I will change that color. I'm just going to add another color here, and I'll change that color. I need it as a bean stitch because it is the decorative one. And then finally, it is in the wrong position. I need this particular shape to stitch out last, so I'll move it to the bottom of our list, and then we take a look. The coffee cup will stitch out the outline, the decorative handle and rim, the slot, and the two initials, and then that's when we would float our piece of felt behind our hoop and then stitch out our bean stitch as our decorative. So we end up with our coffee cup as one of our coins too. And again, that slot works very well for gift cards, so this could be either for money or gift card. All right, we'll stop right here for a moment and ask Dory, do we have any questions?
Okay, sorry about that. I got stuck on my mute button.
Stuck in the mute button.
Yes, I did. Since you don't use any of the stabilizers at all, when you
Not for this project.
all right, when
Yes.
you cut that slot, how are you cutting that? With a pair of scissors? Are you
Yes. Yes, I'll stop you right there. That's exactly what I use. A very sharp-tipped scissors. Even if you need to pull both of those felt pieces apart so that you just snip a small snip inside the coin slot, making sure that you're not cutting through to the back. And then you can take a straighter pair of scissors and cut. I'm not actually removing any felt that's inside that slot. If you take a look right here, you can see that really I've just made that slit inside and allowed the felt that sort of draws itself up a little bit.
Okay. And my friend Gay wants to know, measurements for the slot, did you make it a specific size or just balanced?
Well, I did it for balance to start with, and again on the little guy, remember I did not measure for my quarter, which was silly of me, but then when I made that as a balance and I'm playing with that with my pig, I noticed that that was just a little bit tight in there, so I went back and I gave you all some good measurement for that slot. And just to reiterate, I made that slot a 2.25 wide, and it ended up to be about a 0.2 in height. You certainly could make that slot larger. You can tell by looking at these that there's really no right or wrong. It just depends on how wide and the purpose of that slot. Are you going to use a gift card? Are you going to put in some other little note card? Whatever it would be. And it's really meant to just be, it can be the gift or it can hold the gift.
Super. Thank you very much. I really like this project.
Oh, good. Fast and easy. That is what we are doing this evening. I happily confess that I am a word nerd, which comes from my love of reading. And in this day of e-readers and tablets, I still enjoy a real book in my hands. I hope you feel the same. So our next fast and easy gift is a bookmark that can also double as part of the wrapping, as you see here. I'm choosing to show you a circle shape, but you could do them in any shape you wish, including the coffee cup or t-shirt that we just played with. And as you take a look at these, notice that the key to having these work as a bookmark is the elastic, that the elastic comes out of the bookmark and goes around the pages that you've read and marks your place in your book in that fashion. But the bookmark itself can be fun, and it can be meaningful or fun, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, but the idea is to have a good time with this. Once again, you'll notice that I have done all of these out of felt. There are, because we use this elastic, we need to have some kind of opening left in our circle at the top and the bottom so that we can insert that elastic. I've chosen to do that at the sewing machine. There are a few ways I thought of doing this project, but I chose this way because I wanted to stay with our fast and easy and not have you have to tape this elastic out of your way or make sure it doesn't get caught in the back and so forth. So I have chosen to do it the way that you'll see here in just a moment. We're going to come back into the software, get a clean screen, and we begin with our circle. So we'll come into our artwork tool with our ellipse. I'll hold down my control key and draw a perfect circle, select it, come up into our sizing, and the circle is going to be a 3.5. Now that is kind of large. This does still fit in your 4x4 hoop. If you choose, you certainly can make this circle smaller, but I used this nice larger size so that I could add text to it and you could see it easier. Remember, we're going to need some opening up at the top. So with this being our first circle, I will do a right click, convert to run. We then need to copy and paste this original circle. I'll change the color so that we know that we have two. And at this point, to make that opening at the top and bottom of our pink circle, one of the ways that I thought was easy and fast, I'll back this out to 100%, I'm going to come up here and use our Art Rectangle tool and simply draw a rectangle that is longer than my circle. I'll select it because what's important here, I'll take off that maintain aspect ratio because what's important is the width. If I make that rectangle 1 inch, that is the size that I need for my opening. I used a 1/2 inch and a 3/4 inch elastic on my projects, so that 1 inch gave me a lot of room for me to insert my elastic. I'm also going to select all of the items at this moment and come up here and ask them to be centered on themselves and right click on the ruler and also center origin. So now I know everything is in its proper place. And here's the trick for getting our opening even and across from each other. we'll come in with our, let me zoom in just a little bit here so you can see what we're doing. We'll choose our shape tool, and we're going to come over here. Please notice that over in sequence, my first circle is chosen. I actually want my second circle chosen. So with my shape tool, I come over, and where the rectangle intersects the circle, do a right click at that point and ask it to split the line. We don't care about that little pokey right there. We'll ignore it. We'll come over here where it intersects, right click, split line. And then do you notice how just that segment is chosen? Hit delete on the keyboard, and we have our opening that is exactly 1 inch wide. If we scroll down to the bottom, because our rectangle is from top to bottom, I know this is going to be in the exact same spot. I choose my shape tool, right click at the intersection, split, right click at that intersection, split. I'm going to select that inner portion and delete it using my keyboard. I'll come back out with my zoom. I no longer need that rectangle, so I select it and delete it. And I currently have my first circle and then my second circle that has the openings for the elastic. I'm going to select both pieces of that and come over here and make it a bean, so it is my decorative stitch. And then finally, I'm going to come up here to the very first circle, select the first one again, copy, paste it. I'll change my color, and I'm coming over to size and making that a 3.8. I'll go ahead and put my maintain ratio. I'm going to put a 3.8, so I'm making it a little larger, a little bit more than a 1/4 inch away. And if I can, if you'll bear with me for a moment, I'll show you here in the slides why I did that. But for the moment, we have these 3 circles that are going to make up the base of any bookmark that we do. At this point, I would encourage you to do a file, save as, make sure you're in your proper folder. I'm going to go back into our webinar folder for this evening, and then I would call this bookmark blank circle, which means I can bring that up anytime in the future. All the basics are there, and all I need to do is add fun to the center of my bookmark. I'll go ahead and finish creating. The one that we're going to create is our little book nerd right here. So in our circle, we'll get our text. I'll click, and the first letter I need is a capital B. I'm going to come into my fonts, and I played around with fonts that I don't use very often since this was going to be just a fun gift. I chose Seaside for my B, and I will drag it into position. Now, I need a K for the other letter. I certainly could create that box all over again, or I can do a copy, paste, move the second B over, come up to my text box and simply put in the K instead of the B and apply, and now I have those 2 letters that are the exact same size and in the same font. Let's go get our glasses that are going to represent our 2 O's. We're going to find that under symbol, click on the drop down and choose select. Sunglasses, they're in alphabetical order, so we'll scroll down towards the bottom. Here are those sunglasses, and with your symbol tool, it's a click and drag to size and position. So I will select that and move that into better position, move over my B and my K, and our 2 O's are represented by our glasses. Then we have our next text box, which is going to hold the word nerd lovingly, and we'll type that in, and I'll go get the font that I want. With this one, I use the Scarborough, again using some fonts that I've not normally played with. I'm going to select my box, drag it over, and then change the color. Now, notice that I use my select key, and all of my text editing are no longer there. To bring that text editing back, I come up and click back on my text tool, and then I see all of my special symbols and so forth that allow me to do some different things with this text. I'm going to right-click and choose envelope. Lots of fun shapes that you have in here if you've never played with your envelopes. I'm going to use the second to the last one, the bridge convex, and it gives me that shape, but I'm going to exaggerate it even more by dragging that bottom green dot down a little bit more to emphasize that bottom curve. Select it, maybe move it up just a hair, and then maybe move all of this book down just a little bit into my center, and there we have our first bookmark. Let's take a look to see how we would stitch this out. In our slides, and here are just some other samples of those, but in our slide, we hoop up our felt. Again, we don't have any stabilizer there. If you had very heavy filled stitching, you could float a piece of tearaway under that if you'd like, but in this instance, most of what we have is a lightweight stitching. This is stitching out our first circle. Then any of the decorative stitching that you've added to the middle, in our case it would be Book Nerd, but here I've got my granddaughter's information, and she's going to grow up to be a makeup artist. She's 6. And then at this point, once all your decorative is stitched, you're going to float that piece of felt under your hoop so it becomes the backing for your bookmark. If you prefer, you can remove your hoop and have your square put a little glue stick at maybe the top and the bottom of this extra piece, and then put your hoop back on. So either way, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Then the remaining stitching will be both of those sides of our bean stitch and then the final circle. So this is the finished bookmark, but I took a close-up to show you, can you tell that here we have our bean, but there is the original circle that was stitched, this first one right here, and there's our outside, and we'll take a look at why I did that outside. It becomes your cutting line. If you cut directly on that stitched line, you will have a perfect outside circle. And the reason I did this, I did not do it on the first couple that I made, and I was not very accurate getting that perfect circle. So I came back to the design, added that outside circle just with a normal run standard stitch, and it became my cutting line. So you can do things like this to help you through projects. We'll go on then, once it's cut out, we have that opening for our elastic. You'll insert that elastic in there. Now, I cut my elastic pieces about 16 inches long for a regular size book. For a paperback, I made one for a friend who reads paperbacks, and I cut that elastic at about 10 inches. It doesn't have to be exact. If you have books at home, you can measure your elastic yourself. But we insert that in there, and then here you'll see the reason I also added that first circle, because it now gives us a stitch line to follow when we are anchoring that elastic into our opening. On my machine, I have a triple stitch. I used that. I used the same thread in there that I embroidered with, and I set that triple stitch at 3.5 length and stitched right on that stitch line, giving me a perfect circle. You'll want to do the same for the bottom to insert your elastic, and when you do that, make sure that your elastic is not twisted so it'll go around the book nicely, and then you would do the same here. You would follow that stitch line on your circle with your triple stitch, or if you don't have a triple stitch, you simply can stitch over it maybe 2 or 3 times to get the thickness to look like your bean stitch. All right, we'll come back into the software. Let me show you. These are some other samples of fun things that you can put on. And again, it can be part of the package. Would be a wonderful gift if you're giving your friend a book for Christmas. And again, just some other looks. Let's take a look. I do have that document created, so I can go over with you how we created some of those. And as we turn on our 3D, you can see that We've used the same circles in all of these. This I read is just one text box. Each of these are separate text boxes, so I could do different colors and different fonts. I used that same trick with the envelope to get that little bit of a curve. We have just a fun font with one initial, a little larger. That is our Mono 44. And in this one, Once Upon a Time, the O is a very large, fancy script. I like that script a lot. It's one of our built-in fonts. And then each of these is its own text box so that I could pick it up and move it how I wanted to, or if I wanted to tuck it into the O or move it out a little bit. And then this particular symbol is from your text designs. And then this lovely one, very, very pretty. Please don't forget that you have very fun built-in monogram sets, alpha sets. We'll click on that text design and it brings us into our screen. You see the angels here. We have a number of different font sets with crayons. There's a Christmas tree, beautiful flowers, and so forth. And there's actually two of them that are perfect for this time of year. We have two sets of Santa Clauses. But right here is where you see I found that beautiful K, brought it to my screen. I only needed to size it just a little bit down so that it fit into the circle, and it stitches out beautifully. If I show you the slide, you can see it's very fun. And oh, by the way, this one's for me. So I like that one and had fun with it. We'll stop here and see if we have any other questions at this point. Dory, how are we doing?
We're doing pretty good. We've got a couple questions. One of them is from our friend Nancy, and she wants to know, did you use embroidery thread in the bobbin while embroidering?
I used bobbin thread. I know sometimes when you do standalones like this, you can go ahead and put the same thread in the bobbin. So when you turn it on the other side, it looks nice as well. But with this particular one, because I used felt, the stitching sinks a little bit into the back of the felt, so I just went ahead and used my bobbin thread. And remember, all of the backing from your text boxes will not be showing because you have that backing of felt behind it. You could if you wanted to for the circles, but I did not.
Okay. Now, our friend Phyllis wants to know, how did you get that elastic to be ruffled? It's adorable.
Thank you. I wish I could take credit for that, but you can actually buy that. I think it's a Dritz product, and it comes in all different colors. It's very fun, and as you see this yellow one, this is also a little different too. It has almost two panels to it, to the elastic. I actually went up to my local fabric store and had a good time just looking at the types of elastic. I went up looking for black and came home with lots of fun ruffly colors. So take a look.
Your sewing room appreciated it too.
Yes, it did.
Okay, and last question. You can answer this one now, or you can answer this one in a bit.
Okay.
Joan wants to know, how come you see the images? We see the images, the pictures of your designs.
How come you see like what I have right here on the screen right now?
No.
Is that,
how come
no.
we get to see the pictures in your folders on your computer?
Because I have the, we'll go ahead and come back to my outside screen, because I have Perfect Stitch Viewer, and this is a product sold by Dime, which allows you to do just that. You know how you can see your JPEGs in your Windows Explorer? Well, if you have Perfect Stitch Viewer software, that is what allows you to see the images, such as right here. These are my C2S designs. You can see them, and I can tell which design I'm after. Very cool software. It'd be a very, very welcome gift under the tree.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. At this point, we're going to move away from gifts per se into the gift giving. I am someone who thinks that presentation is everything, and we have so many fun ways that we can jazz up our presents. We take a look here, lots of different things that we can do. We're going to start with creating gift tags. We can, again, we're going to be working with circles. You can use any shape that you want, but in this particular gift tag, you'll see I have one slot, so I've run the ribbon through that slot and back up to tie it within the bow. Yet on these packages, you see I have two slots at the top and the bottom, which allows me to feed the ribbon behind the gift tag. This is a great way to wrap your gifts if you have to mail them, because we have no bow to be squished on the other end. So let's take a look at how we create those. We come to a clean screen, and once again we're going to start with a circle. All this repetition this evening of circles, you're going to be an expert. When we're finished, we'll draw that, and I'm going to come into the size and make that a 2.75 circle. And again, you can make yours whatever size you think you want it to be. Back this out a little bit. And that is my inner circle. So I will now do a copy paste, change the color, make that one larger. This will be 3.25. And apply it, and we now know that this outside circle is going to be my cutting line on the felt so that I can get a very nice circle when I'm all finished. We're going to make another slot. We come under here with our rectangle, and I click and drag. I just want a rectangle up there for the moment. I'll select it, change the color, and I used 1-inch wide ribbon, so I made my slot 1.25, and I will apply that. I need that in position here, and I will do a copy paste so that we can have one at the bottom. If you decide to have only the top one, you would not need to add those here. Remember that I can select both of those items and align them, and then I can I'm going to actually take these two and group them, and then select all and center that. I sometimes get carried away with my creation that I forget to center my circles to start. At this point, they are all still artwork. Let's do a right-click, convert to run. And this circle, the small circle, is the only one that's going to be decorative. So I'll go ahead and apply my bean stitch to that, and you can see what we have. And once again, at this point, with all the bases of our gift tag, I would do a file, save as, and save this as gift tag blank, and save it so that any time in the future I could start from this point and just add my fun in the middle. Now I have a design file already created to show you some of the things that I did with those gift tags. We start with our basic circle as we just created it, but you'll see some wreaths that are in here, and I would like you to think about using your circular designs that you find in your monogram designs. We'll click on that down arrow, choose monogram designs, and you see that there are some that are full circles, if those are appropriate for the recipient of your gift. I did start with this particular one. I'll drag it over here for you to see it. It's more oval than it is circular, so I came to my sizing. I took off the maintain because I don't want it to stay an oval, and I sized that. I think I went to maybe I'll just try a 3 here and see what we have as far as size, but it is more of circular. That still looks a little too big, so I can drag it to size, and then I would have dropped it right into my circle. The letter that I've used here is the Ribbon Love. I like that font. It's very soft, but yet big enough to see. As you see this wreath, let's go back under our monogram designs, and I found that a little further down in our list. It came with a ribbon. I'll go ahead and bring that on screen, and as I look at the wreath, it's pretty, but I don't want the ribbon, it's too big. So let's come over here in our sequence view and select just the ribbon. I see that it is grouped. We come up here and ungroup it first, and then select just the ribbon, hit delete on my keyboard, and then I definitely want to select all of that wreath and group it back, because otherwise I would have many pieces and parts to that, and I would want to be able to drag and size that wreath as I needed to fit into my gift tag. The final one that you see here, even though it's green, it was not a wreath per se. I found it under our text tool. We'll come over here and I'll click and bring you back into the font window and draw your attention to all of these fun decorative monogram letters that you have. Each of these fun decorations will come with the individual letter. If we scroll up a bit, this is mono number 21, the one that I used. It comes onto screen. I'll size it so you can see it a little bigger, see what we're playing with here. And as this comes in, take a look over here in your sequence view. It is only one item. It is a text box, if you will, but it is all one piece. So there's no way for me to get to the purple letter in this state. What I need to do, drag it out of the way a little bit, but I need to do a right click and choose to break up the text. I'm going to do that, but do be careful, because once it's done, and we can't undo it. I now need to come up here and ungroup those two. I now can select my purple letter and delete it. I thought that was just a little bit formal for what I'm doing with my presents. I will once again select the remainder of all those pieces and parts and group them, and then I could drag it to my circle and size it and put in a text appropriate for my recipient. And there again is that fancy script. I like that a lot. So with your gift tags, very much fun. Something else I'd like to draw your attention to with these gift tags, take a look at these three. Do you remember seeing those just a moment ago in our text designs, where we saw that we have two different Santa fonts, and we had the angel font and the crayons and so forth? Look how pretty that is, just all by itself with one letter on our gift tag. It is very fun and very easy, so don't forget that you have those involved as well. Another way to identify your packages is with giant letters. This J and the V, these presents are very large, so I wanted something to be appropriate for them. They're for my grandchildren. And we come in, you can't really tell on the picture of this J very well, but right here we see some texture in our letter. We'll come back to our screen and see how we do that. We once again go into our text, click on our screen, and I'm going to type in the letter J for my little Jamie. I come back into my fonts, and for this one, I'm going to come all the way at the top. Have any of you ever used your Arial Run? It's a very fun font, especially for what we're doing right here. I'm going to go back in my size. No, I want to stitch this in my 5x7 hoop. I'm going to make the height of this a 6.5, and I'll apply, whoops, let me undo that because I need that maintain aspect ratio checked. Now let me do my 6.5. I don't necessarily want a tall, thin J. I'll come back out and see it, and by default, this is a bean stitch. If we come into our run properties, I see it's a bean, but it's very small stitch length. So I'm going to bump that up to a 3.5 and apply it so that it shows a little better on the felt. Now, here's our letter, but we're going to make it a little fancier by, I'll select it here with my select tool. I'm going to do a right click and choose Create Outline. The distance, I'm going to make a 0.1, but here's the trick. We're going to click on that inside box and OK it. Let me change the color so you can see it. And do you notice how I now have an inside J, the same shape perfectly to my letter? I'll select it again. It is artwork. I'm going to right-click, convert to a complex fill. Now, certainly I don't want all of that heavy fill, so let's come back over here to our fill type, use our drop-down and choose motif, and then I'm going to come and choose a 103 and apply it, and we see a very fun textured look to that. I could even bump that up a bit. If I expand it a bit on the felt, that will even show better. And the final thing I need to do for this giant letter is I need some kind of hole to allow me to attach this to my package. And what is a hole but the letter O? So I'll type in a capital O, go into my fonts, and I know that I like the Bauhaus O very well. It works well for my situations such as this. I've done this before with holes. So we'll come and size that down just a little bit, and we will place it over our letter J so that it stitches out last, and then I can cut inside that and have it be the hole, allowing me to pass my ribbon through. The way that we're going to stitch this out, if we take a look at our slides, this is very easy. We simply hoop our felt as we have been doing, and then we're going to take some of that stiff craft felt that you can find at your craft stores. If you've never worked with it before, you might want to ask for it, but you'll know it. It'll be in that same aisle where the rectangles of craft felt are, but once you pick it up, it's a little bit rough, but it is stiff and it holds its shape, and that's what's going to allow our big letters to keep their shape as well. I put a little bit of glue with my glue stick at the top and the bottom and the outsides here, and then pressed it on the back of my hoop, put my hoop in, and I simply stitched out the entire letter and then did the trimming. As you can see, I left some spacing between the outside and the cut line as well. So again, that's the look I like when I use a bean stitch. Let's come back in here and do the V. Same kind of thing with a twist. We'll set up our text box, and I'll give myself my capital V, go into my choices for my text, and this time I'm going to choose a fun one that it looks very fun when it is done as a stitched file, but I'm going to size it. Again, I'm going to make that a 6.5 for my V. Okay, and then I am going to take out this and put my width of a 4.9 so that fits in that hoop. I don't even care that all of the satin stitch is not pretty and all of it's split and so forth, because what I'm doing with this letter is a right click, oops, I need my regular select, a right click, I'm going to create the outline, and I want the outline of the whole letter, so I'll use the distance as 0 and OK it. Let me change the color and select the original V here. Delete that. I don't need it anymore. I have the outline of my letter. We can see a little bit of weirdness in these two areas, and that's okay. That had to do with the satin stitching. So I used my shape key, drag around those points, right-click, delete them. I'm going to move this point out of the way so I can drag around those, right-click, delete them, put that point down a bit, and then select that. I'm going to convert it to a run, and it will be a bean stitch. And then I'm going to go back into a right-click, create the outline. Remember our trick, we did a 0.1 for distance, but we chose the inside box. OK that. I'm going to right-click, convert to complex fill. We know that we want that to be a motif, and I'll go get my motif I like a lot. Number 144 is zeros. I'm going to really bump this up so I have bigger O's in there, and here becomes my second giant lettered gift tag. I would certainly take the O and have that one be also on this, but I would be bringing it to stitch last, and again you do the same. And the other thing that you can do, you see how some of these circles are still open and so forth going down the side. If we select that blue, that complex fill, I can also do a right click and create a border that will tidy up those edges. I could do the same for my J, making sure I have the right thing selected, right click and create border, and then that tidies up all of your edges for those. But in doing these letters, you get a very fun, gigantic letter on your big packages. We have one last one here. We'll go in and take a look at our gift box. This is actually the gift box made out of felt, but it is also the gift itself. So once we open the flaps, you have embroidered your gift, whatever it is that you're giving to the recipient, is part of the gift box. I have a friend who is a non-sewist, and she was over looking at some of the things I had created for this evening, and she said to me, "You know you can do that on paper, right?" And I just smiled because she doesn't understand the joy that we get from our software and our embroidery machines in creating something to actually give that is using what we love. So I have chosen to do this as an embroidery design. Let's come back into our software. We'll bring up a clean screen. And for this purpose, I'm going to use my guidelines. To do that, you rest your mouse up in the ruler and I click and drag down. I'm aligning it with the 0 over here at this edge. I'll also get a vertical one by clicking in that side ruler and dragging over and aligning it with my 0. I can steady my hand there. And now I have the exact center point. It's going to be important here in just a moment. Let's go in and get a rectangle. Holding now my control key, I get a perfect square. I'll select it, come into size, and I know that I want this square to be, whoops, we need to maintain our ratio. I need it to be a 3-inch square, and I'll right-click and center that. Let's back out just a little bit so you can see what we're doing. I also need to create a circle, again holding down control and dragging. I select it, change the color, come into size, it too is 3 inches, and apply. I could copy and paste this circle 3 more times so that I have 4 circles, but just as a refresher, you have these templates. I'm going to click on the drop down and choose reflection. Look what it does for me with just the defaults. I don't have to change anything. I have my 4 circles. Let's OK that. They're brought into the screen, centered. I want to rotate them 1 time, and I'm also going to come over here and ungroup them. So now I can take them one at a time, and I need to drag those circles down so that they just touch that center line, and I'll do one by one. I'm going to move that into the side, take my bottom, drag that one up, touching at the center, and do the same for my last side one. And then to do a quick peek to make sure that I am accurate on my positions, what I'm looking for is, you see this corner right here? I want that circle to be touching the corners. Okay. And then this circle needs to come over just a little bit to touch my corners. And if I've aligned those properly, the others should be in alignment, and they are. We'll back out just a little bit. Now I'm going to select my first circle, hold down my control key, and select the second. And we can use our weld key, which does exactly that. It welds 2 pieces. You must have 2 items selected, not 3, not 4, not 1. Weld only works with 2 selected items. When I click on weld, those 2 become 1 item. I now hold down control and select my other circle, come up here and weld, and then hold down control, select my last circle and weld, and you can see what it has done. It's welded all the circles, taking out all of the overlaps, and it has given us 4 perfectly shaped scallops that will then fold in for our box. I want to take this square and copy, paste it. I'll change the color, and I also want to change the size. I'm going to make that inner one a 2.75 so that it is smaller, and I'll show you why. Let's select all of our items, right-click, convert to run, and then I'm going to choose my scallop and make that a bean. This might be one time where you might want to use the same embroidery thread in your bobbin for that scallop, since it will show, but we don't have to. So this is our basic gift box. Like we've done all evening, I would do a file, save as, save it with my C2S, and call it gift box blank, knowing that from this point forward I can use it anytime, whether it's Christmas or Valentine's or Easter, whatever it might be. And at this point we would go in and put our text, whatever our gift is going to be, whatever we're going to give our recipient, and I think I used my little curly font for this particular one. I'll position it where I want that, and then I need another text box that will hold my gift. What am I giving? Whatever it might be, whatever you think your recipient would like, and I'll change that font into one of my favorites. I always go back to a Bauhaus and zoom back out, change the color, get my select tool and drag that over and size that appropriately and place that in my box. And you now have your gift box. Let's check the sequence because I need this. I'll go ahead and send that to the bottom, and then most importantly I need that inner square to be the last thing that's stitched. So I'll select that and send it to the end. It's going to do our inner box. Let me change the color of this tin so that it doesn't set itself up with the blue. And now let's take a look at how we would stitch this out. You would hoop your felt. I would stitch the very first square and the text that we have, the gift itself. You see this is what it looks like from the wrong side of your hoop. You're going to take a square that is, if you remember, our inner square was 3 inches, so I would cut a piece of that stiff craft felt at 3 inches and use some glue stick, and this time you can do the glue stick right in the middle because your text is already stitched, and position it over this square that you see here, and then it will stitch out the scallops, and that inner square you see tacks down that firm stiff felt. Now you can not do this step if you don't want to, but your box is very flimsy because all it is one layer of felt. And then I've also done this little hint for you. If you're wondering how to fold it, you're going to fold it just like you would a box. You'll fold this side in first, and then your top, and then your third, and when you fold up your fourth, you're going to tuck this one in to that first one that's folded, and that keeps it steady. I did press mine so that I got a nice fold on it, and again, this is the gift, and I have box in quotations, but when you open it, you have given someone your gift. And for the pure joy of embroidering for others, stitch out one of your beautiful designs and attach it to a gift bag. Both of these designs are from your free monthly designs for Perfect Embroidery Pro. The Santa Claus you got last month with November 2015, and the log cabin you get this month, December 2015, and you can stitch those out on felt and then trim them and apply with a glue stick or a glue gun to inexpensive bags, and it makes a very fun presentation for you. If you need other gift ideas, you might want to revisit these PEP webinars. In the January 2015. This actually was the very first webinar I did with you all. We did this particular felt tray. October, we have the In the Hoop holidays, and last month we did our buttonholes. And I believe all of you received from Dory the URL to take you to our YouTube channel, and you'll find all of these on that YouTube channel for our PEP webinars. We'll stop there for the moment, and Dory, do we have any final questions for this evening?
Yes, we do have one question. Does Word Art and Stitches get free designs also? And I can answer that unless you'd like to.
Go ahead, Dory.
Well, no, it doesn't. The 3 flagship programs that we have, which is My Quilt Embellisher, My Block Piecer, and Perfect Embroidery Pro, are the ones that get the free designs.
Thank you. These are my gifts to you all. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, and I really mean that your holiday is full of wonder. I'll see you next year. Good night.
Good night.